What's up, people? It's me, Wildest Gameplay and Football News. So I've got my fantasy update to do, and everyone knows who the main guys are right now in fantasy in Premier League. So it's not for me to tell you who they are; it's just for me to analyze their data and tell you who you should be going for and who you should be avoiding out of the main ones. So I'll start at the top with Robin van Persie, top goal scorer, Premier League, blah blah blah, all that shit. First of all, he costs the most out of everyone in the entire thing. 14 million. Okay, so high, but it's worth it. He's also got the most amount of points so far, so you could say that it is granted. You know, he deserves it. But his value, which is his points divided by his cost, is only 9.4. 9.4, which is not great, but it's up there. You know, it's yellow. I put it as yellow because it's in the middle. But his minutes per point, which is how many minutes it takes for him to get 1 point of Fantasy Premier League, is 12. Every 12 minutes, Van Persie gets a point. And that is great. That is just really, 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 really good. Really good. And obviously to the right of it, you have PPM, which is points per minute. Every minute he gets 0.08 points. It's exactly the same as minutes per point. You know, after 12 minutes, he would have accumulated 0.08 points times 12. But it's just a different way of showing it, and it shows you the difference. So next you have Tevez, who's played slightly less minutes than Van Persie by about 300. He's also got about 30 less points and costs 5 million pounds less than him. So his value is a clear 2 million better. His points divided by his costs makes 11.4. So his value is slightly higher than Van Persie's, which means that while he's been on the pitch, he's accumulated more points than him. If they were both on the pitch for the same amount of time, then Tevez would have accumulated more points. I believe that's what it means. But you can see here that their minutes per point and points per minute are identical. 12 minutes and 0.08, sorry. So they're exactly the same. Had Tevez played all the same time as Van Persie, he would have probably the same amount of points. So they're literally the same. But Van Persie starts more, but he costs more. So there you go. Pick and choose when you want to sign Tevez. If you think he's going to start, get him in your team. Next, you've got Sergio Aguero, who was like second or third most points scored last year behind Van Persie and Rooney. And unfortunately hasn't started a lot this year. He's managed to get up nearly as many minutes as Tevez, but his points is much less, and he costs more than Tevez, so his value is atrocious. It's only 6 million. It's only 6, sorry. So very bad compared to the previous two, and he's only accumulating a point every 17 minutes, which is still good. That's the thing. He's a good point accumulator, but just not as good as Van Persie and Tevez. So value-wise, he's not as valuable as Tevez or Van Persie. Moving on, we've got Rooney, who's injured at the start and is playing a dual role with Van Persie. So he scores. Literally, they've been sharing the points whilst Rooney's been playing. But Rooney costs 11.8 million, so 3 million less than Van Persie, but he's accumulated 50 points less than him, which is quite a lot. So his value is very, very bad, 6.9, and he's accumulated a point every 13 minutes, which is very, 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 very good, but still not as good as the previous two stalwarts, Van Persie and Tevez. Suarez, top goal scorer for Liverpool. He's the only one who's going to be getting the points for Liverpool, as far as I'm concerned, and he's breached the 100-point mark. Fair enough to him, but he plays pretty much every single game. I think he's only missed 1 or 2 games through suspension. I think it was, and he costs less than Van Persie, more than Tevez, less than Aguero, less than Rooney. So his value is less than Tevez's, but better than the rest, because considering how many points he's got and how much he costs, he does the business, he does the job, and gets a point every 15 minutes, which is very, very good if he's been in your team the whole year. Also, if you've captained him, you've made a great amount of points. Next, we've got Theo Walcott, and you might be thinking, why have I put him in my spreadsheet, in my data? And that is because he's played 860 minutes. He's got 91 points and he only cost 8.7 million. So his value, okay, is less than Tevez's, less than Suarez's, better than the other three, and he gets a point every 9.5 minutes. Every minute he gets 0.11 points. Walcott, when he plays, he gets points. When he doesn't, he doesn't. It's as simple as that. So if you sign him, sign the thing. If you sign the thing at the right time, he is going to get you most amount of points than anyone else in Fantasy Premier League. Because I've analysed the data, I've checked others, and I've only put those who are relevant into this case. And Walcott, every 9 minutes, gets you a point. 9 minutes. 10 points a game he's averaging. He's averaging 10 points a game. If he plays all 38 games in the league, that's 380 points. Do the math. So Walcott is just on it. Those are my picks. I would go with. I've stuck with Van Persie throughout the entire season, and I think I may continue with him. But these are just for you to know who is actually doing the business. Next, you've got Michu, who's he's probably the most unique player of the entire series in the season because his value. He costs one of the least, 8.2 million, and he's accumulated the second most amount of points in the entire Fantasy Premier League. That is just crazy, okay? Completely crazy. 8.2 he costs, and he's got 120 points. So his value is 14.6, better than everyone else in my data here, meaning that he costs the least and he gets you the most when they're divided together. A point every 13 minutes. Okay, not as great as the strikers, but they're strikers. Michu is a midfielder, which means he's getting 5 points every goal he scores. 5. He's been playing up front, but been getting 5 points every goal he scores, which is crazy. Also, I should go back to Walcott, who's been playing in a striking position and getting 5 points every goal he scores, instead of traditional 4 when you're a striker. If Michu was a striker, then he would have about he would have about 20 points less, I think, considering the way the assists and the goals go and bonus points. You know, for being a striker, they normally get less, considering they're doing their job. But because he's a midfielder, he's getting much more points than what he should be if he was a striker. Next, we've got Santi Cazorla, who's had a good bit of form recently. He had that hat-trick against Wigan. He is third top point scorer in the entire fantasy league. He costs 9.6, which is pretty high, let's be honest. Meaning his value is quite high, which is bad. Oh no, that is good. 11.8 is good. That is good, all right, but it's not great. He gets a point every 15 minutes, which is decent. He's one of the main point scorers for Arsenal, other than Walcott, who I just mentioned, and Podolski. So he's always going to be there getting you points, and I think you should keep him in your team or buy him if you have the chance. Next, we have Gareth Bale, who has the tendency to just score when he wants. Not Van Persie type, but Bale type. He scores when he wants to, as far as I'm concerned, and he does it fairly consistently. He's played 200 less minutes than Cazorla and Michu, but is only there and thereabouts their same points. But he does cost quite a bit more than Michu and a bit more than Cazorla, so his value is less than both of theirs, unfortunately. But because of the amount of points he's accumulated in such a short period of time compared to everyone else, he is definitely one to watch. A point every 13 minutes, which is not too bad, but you could do better with the likes of the only people who have got a faster points per minute is Van Persie, Tevez, Rooney, Walcott. So far, I've mentioned. But then, as soon as I've said that, we move on to Juan Mata, who is crazy. He's only played 1,300 minutes, yet he's got just over 100 points. He costs less than Bale, just a bit more than Cazorla. So he accumulates a point every 11 minutes. That is crazy. He's the second quickest point accumulator after Theo Walcott. And Mata has played 1,300 minutes. Do the math, and he is a must-have for your team. I could have put Hazard in this, but Mata is definitely the better option of the two, without doubt. Moving on to the defenders, Ivanovic, who started off crazy. He scored so many goals at the start, and he was assisting, and he was just in and around everything. So he's there. He's played 200 minutes less than the rest of my defenders in this little grid, and he's accumulated 10 points more than them, at least. Meaning he's an absolute beast. He costs the most out of these guys, other than Leighton Baines, who I've decided not to include. He costs the most because of how many points he's got, but his value is still the second highest because he just gets you points. While he's on the pitch, he gets you points. Every 17 minutes, in fact, he's getting you a point, which is just excellent for a defender, regardless of how expensive he is. Chelsea still have a game in hand as well, so there's another thing to include. Evra has scored like 3 goals, 3 headers, I think. He gets a few assists because he's a left back, and he's only missed 1 game, so 1 game missing, and he's got 84 points, which is very, very good. He only cost 6.9, so not as much compared to the midfielders and the strikers I've included here, considering he's got 84 points, and 6.9, basically, the value of defenders is much higher because they cost less and they have the potential to get you there or thereabouts, the same as your strikers, over a certain period of time, depending on when you have them in your team. Shawcross, another player who's only missed 1 game, he costs 0.9 million less than Evra, which means his value is much higher. It's almost a million more. His value is 1 whole unit more than him. But he only gets a point every 20 minutes because he's played 200 minutes more than Ivanovic. 200 minutes more than Ivanovic, and has accumulated less points than Evra. So every 21 minutes he accumulates you a point. Not too bad. Then we've got the dark horse of the defenders with Kieran Gibbs, who has played only 1,200 minutes but has 66 points, which works out a point every 18 minutes. So just worse than Ivanovic's, but much better than Shawcross and Evra's. Gibbs will get assists. He'll get a clean sheet every now and then because Arsenal do manage to keep one eventually. But I think he's a very, very good option. He only costs 5.5 million, which makes his value 12, which is very, 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 very good. I would sign up Gibbs if I had the chance. I don't right now because I've got enough Arsenal players. But if you're looking to sign an Arsenal defender, go for Gibbs. I hope you enjoyed this. This has been Wildest Gameplay and Football News. Stay tuned for some more fantasy football tips, hints, and previews. The season is halfway through, and it's been really, really good so far. In fact, in 2012, the most amount of calendar goals have been scored, which is just crazy, due to mostly players like Van Persie, Aguero, Rooney, all scoring like 30 odd goals in there, like between them, over 2 seasons and stuff like that.